And today what I wanted to do was to go through briefly, really quick, what we've gone through so far, just to wrap up our conversations. And then over these weeks, I didn't have time to show some of the programs that we have, so hopefully we can do that today. Then next week's agenda is to have a group exercise. So I thank you for joining us today. So please come next week also, because I think it will be very interesting to do this as a group to solve this problem. Okay? All right. So I'm just going to go through what we've gone through all these the past 6 weeks, week by week. So we start off with this energy pyramid, and we went from understanding comfort to how do you deal with envelope, lighting, HVAC, and we haven't covered renewables yet, but I'll talk about that today. By the way, my renewables person is missing today also, but I have backed it up.
Sorry for being, Johnny,
Yeah.
only partial related. Why is your pyramid in that proportion and in that order?
That's a good question. And the thought behind this was, we are doing this entire building design to meet this guy, to meet comfort. So if we can stretch the comfort, that's the pinnacle of all these different things. So that's the least expensive thing to do. And then the next thing to attack would be the envelope, and followed by lighting. And the last thing that you want to look at would be renewables.
I don't have any problem with you doing that, so don't get me wrong. But is there an implication there that as those things get bigger towards the bottom, that they are more, each one is progressively more expensive or progressively more a contributor to success?
More expensive would be appropriate.
Agreed. Would be?
Yes, would be more expensive. I think good design, well, asking the right questions will help us establish what we are designing, and that will save a lot of energy right here if we establish comfort.
Isn't it expense versus result? Isn't it tied to the result? Meaning
Impact?
Oh, the impact. Impact. That's an interesting aspect.
Because renewables kind of cost more, but they don't contribute to the whole as much. Is that fair or not? No. Why not?
Renewables could offset the entire.
Right. So they do contribute a lot.
Okay.
But
so
is that the
cost.
sustainable way to do it? Probably not. I would first focus on reducing the demand as much as possible up here, and then rely on this guy. So I would look at it more as a cost and steps to get to 2030. This would be the last step. So I'm not going to go through all of these. I have 4 pads of these for the last 6 weeks. So I've tabbed the important ones, and we'll go through that. Okay. So first week, we looked at comfort.
You need to give this as a for sale seminar. You need to turn this into a smaller, condensed version of.
Come on, Professor.
Have you speak at the next AIA convention?
Maybe so. We'll see how far this sinks into our crowd.
Yeah. You could turn it into a DVD and put it in your car to listen to instead of a language.
Oh wait, there's more. More today.
If you can understand my English.
1995.
So I think the very first week
Power Peeler.
we looked at comfort, and we understood how humans feel or perceive comfort, and how heat transfer happens between the various layers of skin, starting from our own skin to the next skin, clothing, and then the last one, the building. Okay? So I'm not going to dwell on all of these. I'm just going to refresh what we looked at. Then, understanding comfort, then we wanted to understand, then we talked about comfort factors. There are 3 main categories of comfort factors. We talked about personal, measurable environmental factors, like the air temperatures and surface temperatures, and the psychological factor that we don't pay enough attention to, but we have to, like light, sound, and texture and whatnot. And we looked at how these things impact energy also. And then we looked at a very basic psychrometric chart and tried to understand how we can stretch comfort, provided we provide more sun, more wind, cooling and heating aspect. Okay, so that was week number 1. And then the next week, we start understanding what is the building's energy consumption. And the term for that is EUI, acronym Energy Use Intensity. We started to understand how to calculate that, what it means, and some basic conversion factors. And then this is a very important slide that we talked about. When it comes to energy, it is important to look through these 3 different lenses. Is it just strictly cost, or is it raw energy consumption, or is it pollution-based metrics? So it is important to ask the owner, what is the metric that we're using? Is it cost, or is it consumption, or is it pollution?
And for Architecture 2030?
For Architecture 2030, it is consumption. Correct. Even though it's directly related to pollution,
right.
Us as architectural designers, we have a lot of control on the demand side of this problem,
Correct.
not on the supply side enough. So pollution is more on the supply side, but we could control on the consumption side a lot. So we looked at different types of sources, how they contribute to these 3 things. And then we looked at the different energy efficiencies of the different sources. We realized how bad electricity is from coal and other fossil-based fuel sources. So we looked at all of these things.
Where do we get natural gas from? Is that one of the questions somebody out had? Natural gas just comes from a well? Or is it cracked, or how you got to?
See, my understanding was the natural gas at the plant level, there is very little loss. That's probably that 10% loss. And the transmission at the plant level is the only loss. And then the transmission, there isn't a whole lot of loss.
Okay.
So
I think the discussion that I was saying, and I haven't followed back up on
So
that,
there's
is
behind
the
that, natural gas getting
Get to
there,
the plant.
and then the coal getting from
Right.
there to there.
Right. But I'm interested to know how that's calculated. My understanding was this is calculated based on this input.
Gotcha.
1 unit of coal.
1 unit of
Or
coal.
1 therm
Right.
of gas.
How does that coal get to the plant? They don't. It's not their problem.
Yeah,
Right.
that's where the difference is.
Problem is.
Definitely.
Yep. And we looked at how this could practically impact our design choices, whether we choose an electric boiler or do we choose a natural gas boiler. And depending on what the owner wants, do they want to reduce the pollution or do they want to reduce cost, these things change. Our choices change. So then we looked at the 2030 challenge targets. For today, it's 60% and it keeps increasing 10% until 2030. By 2030, we're supposed to reduce 100% of carbon-based or fossil fuel-based energy consumption in the building. So if you have clean energy, you can still consume. But the fossil-based energy, we're supposed to reduce by 100%. And I noted that difference that I mentioned here is this 20% cap is only for green renewable energy purchase and not renewable energy production in our site.
Solar, PV panels and whatnot.
Right.
Part of our reduction.
Yeah, that could be part of your reduction.
Okay.
It's usually an expensive aspect, but it's not out of the picture. But what is out of the picture is more than 20% on renewable purchase, green power purchase.
Okay. That's good.
So look at that.